Boreal's Contempt, a mod that was added with the new war. It's one of the rare ones that you can get from armor bounties, and it's absolutely busted. The set bonus provides you with some reduced damage while airborne, which is not bad, especially for some Warframes like Titania that can spend a long time while airborne, or if you just like jumping around. Now, other than that, it provides you with 90% bonus melee damage, which is the same damage multiplier that can be found on things like Pressure Point and Condition Overload, so nothing too spectacular. The real spicy part is the second line, 60% damage from status effects. The downside here, though whether that's a downside or not is highly debatable, is that it can only be used on polearms. Now, the wiki does say that the damage bonus is apparently only 30%, not actually 60%, but even if that is the case, it is still the equivalent, on the right weapon, of a Smite Everything mod. And that is very good indeed, especially since, if you want to, you can actually stack it on top of Smite mods as well. Now, as far as the weapons to use this on go, well, we don't have that many, you can only use it on polearms, but one of them stands head and shoulders above all the other ones, and it's of course the one and only Guandao Prime. Now, there are a few ways that you can utilize this in a build. Most of them are fairly straightforward, and it basically just depends on how much faffing around you're willing to do. I personally am not a massive fan of using priming weapons for Condition Overload, so for me a setup like this is perfect. We have hybrid scaling with Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds, we have Organ Shatter for some crit damage, Condi Overload for the actual damage, Berserker Fury for attack speed, 2 unranked dual stat mods to get a little bit of viral damage, and then Boreal's Contempt for some extra melee damage and status damage. Though this setup will of course require you to run Naramon so your combo doesn't decay all at once. Now, this setup, even though it's the weakest one that you can run, is already ludicrously strong and will happily chop through everything the game will throw at you, Steel Path included. The reason I like this one is because it's a self-contained setup. You don't need a specific frame or a companion, you don't need to subsume anything, you just equip it on the weapon and go. Plus, it doesn't require any forma. And the damage, as I mentioned already, is more than enough already. However, if for whatever reason you're after something a little bit spicier, you could use a setup like this instead. Now, this setup is actually a lot more flexible than the other one because we don't need the viral damage in there, so we can take out the unranked dual stat mods, we're gonna slap in Buskill so that we're basically only proccing Slash with the weapon itself, and then we have one extra mod slot which I filled out with melee prowess, but you can run Healing Return for healing, Primed Reach for range, or even more damage if you want to. With the most damaging mods, I think, being either Smite mods if you're fighting a particular faction, or Gladiator Might for more crit damage if you just want a generically good weapon. Now, this setup does require a primer weapon, so a weapon that you will use to proc status on the enemy for Condition Overload, and you will also use it to apply viral to boost your slash damage. And for this video, I decided to use the Sedu because they can proc like all the status in the world with the secondary fire, and I modded it for viral. Now, I unfortunately can't really show you the full power of this because I would have to spend like 10 hours in a disruption to get the enemy level high enough, because even if I spawn level 175 Eximus Noxus, they die too fast. If I prime them, of course, though it's not entirely necessary because the slash damage on its own is actually strong enough to kill most Steel Path level enemies, so you don't need to prime most of them, you will really only need to prime the beefiest ones. It's just ludicrously powerful, and it's still not at its maximum potential, because I'm still not running a companion, and I'm also not running something like either Rhino Roar or Eclipse or something. I'm just running it on Inaros. So yeah, if you're in the market for some endgame sweatiness, this is most definitely the way to go. And if you don't have the Guandao Prime, the Orthos Prime is not a bad substitute. It's not going to be as strong, but it's still really good. The Keshek is also not too bad, and the new Quorum is not too shabby either. And that is pretty much what there is to say about this, so I thank you very much for watching as always, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.